show. And we've been joined this morning, fortunately, as we have been in the past 2 weeks, by the CEO of the Nova Wellness Center in the person of Dr. Naa Asheley Ashietey. Doc, welcome to the Asaase Breakfast Show.
Thank you. How are you, Benji?
It's been great. How's your week been?
Very busy.
Very busy, yeah? The Wellness Center has been packed with people coming for support, I suppose.
Exactly.
I see. You're creating, you're providing solutions you don't know. Like, you're doing God's work. You don't have an idea.
Thank you.
So this morning, we are talking about our various young ones going back to school. And we think that it's very important that we give them some important tips about wellness, ultimately going back to school. And so for those of you who, some people have already reopened,
Sure.
Others are yet to go back. And so if you are driving and you have your kids with you, I think it's good time to raise the volume so that they get to also connect. If you are at work and they are home, it's a good time to also call them to tune into Asaase now to listen to this particular one. It's important for both parents, wards, as well as the children. And so today we are talking back to school, tips for wellness. And so let's start, straight away, let's go into the meat of the matter. Why is it so important to be talking about wellness when it comes to children? Young people, adolescents, even youth going back to school.
It's extremely important because these kids are spending a lot of time at school. So whatever they're doing in that period can affect their health. Kids are sitting for long hours. So how they sit, for instance, becomes very important. Even when they go out to play, their food, everything they do from 7 to 2 or 3 o'clock, we need to realize that can impact their health. And that's why it's important. And, the kids are developing. This is when they get to develop habits. So I always say, if you teach them some of the right things early on, then by the time they are older, they've already picked up better habits. But if they start off doing all the wrong things, then by the time they're older, they're only going to develop some of the problems that you could have prevented also when you were a child.
A lot of the conversations we've had have got to do with wellness, particularly around issues that stem from our muscles and our skeleton. Are children that much predisposed to musculoskeletal conditions, at their level?
Absolutely. There are children who are born, unfortunately, with some musculoskeletal conditions. You may have seen children who come out and they have what we call torticollis. So their head is leaning one way or the other, for instance. There are kids who will come out with poor posture or, scoliosis and things like that. So yes, kids are also, it's possible for them to develop some of these musculoskeletal problems. The good thing is that a lot of the time in children, when it's caught early, it can be solved.
Okay.
Because they're growing. So with the right measures, as they get older, a lot of these musculoskeletal conditions can be corrected. But if you wait till their bones have finished growing and their bones are all fused, then a lot of the times there's very little change that can be made.
Aside from those who are born with some of these defects, what tends to be the typical causes of some of these musculoskeletal conditions in children?
It could be falls, it could be accidents, it could be daily repetitive activities. One of the things that I find in recent times is causing a lot of these problems would be heavy backpacks, for instance. So a lot of kids have to put all their books in their bags. You see them with the book on the back and they're leaning all the way down because the bag is so heavy. So that, for instance, is a repetitive activity which over a long period of time can lead to some musculoskeletal disorders. And some of them too have bad falls and injuries that can also do that. And even malnutrition. Malnutrition. If your kids are not getting enough of the nutrients they need, that can also lead to musculoskeletal disorders.
Interesting. I mean, when you talk about the backpack, and I remember being a culprit myself much younger when I used to go to school. You know, at the beginning of the week, you want to be very organized. So on Sunday evening, you pack all your books for the week into your bag. You carry them to school on Monday back, same, just so that you avoid leaving any book during the course of the week. So what would you advise for parents to do to deal with such a situation, especially with the backpacks?
So it's very, very important that kids are carrying bags with the least weight as possible. So according to a lot of the research that I have seen, the guideline is to have your kids carry not more than 10% of their body weight. That's number one. So in other words, if they're 50 kilos or kgs, their bag shouldn't weigh more than 5.
Okay.
Yes, and that's not too much at all. So if they're weighing 30 kilos, maybe they're younger, not more than 3, and so on and so forth. So,
and just for context, for those of you who buy rice, there's the
yes.
5 kg rice pack.
Yes, exactly.
So something of the weight if your child is about 50 kg.
Yes, exactly. So that's number one, or I would say probably the most important, because the minute the bag is too heavy, it starts to put stress on the spine, on the muscles, on the ligaments, the structures. And over time, you know, for instance, if your kid is now in class 2 or class 3, and they're going to go all the way through to junior high, to SHS, and every year their bags are getting heavier, right? Because they're learning more. So you can imagine that by the time they finish their education before they go to university, the effect that heavy bag can have on their backs. So definitely we want to look at the 10%. So just weigh the bag. You know your child's weight, or you have an idea, and then make sure that it's not too heavy. You also want to make sure that the bag has a double strap. Don't get bags that already come with only one strap, because then they're putting a lot of weight on one shoulder. You want to get a bag that has double straps that are fully padded, not the thin straps that would dig into their shoulders. So it has to be very well padded. That way, when they put it on the shoulders, it doesn't dig in, and it gives the muscles of the shoulders are also free because there's no pressure. You also want to get a bag that has compartments.
Okay.
Multiple compartments. That way, the weight is spread across the entire back and not only leaning on one side or the other. Now, when they've put the items in their bag and they put it on their back, it's very important to make sure that the bottom part of the school bag is just on the waistline.
Just on the waistline.
And not hanging below. Yes, because once it starts to hang below, then it's going to pull the entire back. So you want to make sure that the school bag is sitting on the waistline. Yes. So you may have to adjust the straps. That way it's tight. If the straps are loose, then you realize that they have to support with their shoulders. And
by bending.
By bending. And then that messes with your posture and messes with your spine as well.
And I'm very happy that you mentioned this, because growing up, and even now, I see around every now and days, there's been the phenomenon of the jungle bag. This leather bag, black, and especially for the ladies, you know, they have this jungle bag, which has a thin strap, leather strap, and so it is not a padded bag, in terms of the strap. And also, they're losing it for it to go all the way below their waist. You know, and so I think if you're listening as a student, as a person who uses backpacks, I think this is very, very important information for you. How about the use of, you know, you mentioned we shouldn't use single strap bags, but you know, there are these bags also which is single strap, but then is worn across your torso.
Yes.
Does that also work fine, or that is still problematic?
I would still recommend the double strap over that, just because your back muscles will be carrying the weight more evenly if you have that double strap as opposed to the single strap. So I would still recommend the double-stranded backpacks.
In secondary schools, especially those who become prefects, and I mean, for a lot of those who became prefects, when they are walking on campus, especially the gentlemen, they don't want to wear backpacks because it makes you look too much of a schoolboy, you know. But when you're a prefect, you command a certain authority, and they tend to use either files or bags with handles that they hold, like an executive, I mean, in business. Does that also hurt in any way relative to going with the backpack?
So if you're holding files, I'm guessing it may not be too heavy. So that may not take your posture off balance so much. But that's just a very small group of people who may want to hold their bag instead of putting it on the back. But even if you're holding a bag, you still want to make sure you're doing not more than 10% of the weight of the holder. Because if it's too heavy, you would still find yourself leaning one way or the other. So whichever way, you want to make sure that there are not too many items in the bag. That way you can carry it more comfortably without putting any stress on your spine.
For those who don't want to use a backpack, I mean, who would consider a dragging bag, you know, and there are a number of bags now which have pullable handles and then which have wheels. Do those also work?
Yes. So if all else fails, then you want to go for a dragging bag. They've become very popular these days because a lot of the schools around here may not have lockers or enough room for the kids to put some of their books in. So you realize that a lot of parents these days, and I always advise parents, you know, as early as possible, let them start getting used to a dragging bag so that they don't have to wait till they get to JSS before they start using it. And that works. But even then, you still need to monitor. We're not saying that because they're using a dragging bag, they can put everything in the world in it. I think that between parents and teachers, we should be able to come to an understanding as to these are the books that the kids need for classes today, and let them start developing the habit of packing the books that they need today so that they are not overburdened with heavy school bags, whether they are dragging it or whether they are putting it on their backs.
And so that's this for school bags. And this is very, very important because to a great extent, it informs how your posture is going to be as a young person, especially at the formative stage. Now, let's talk about activity. And now, because of the level of competition, there's a lot of sitting down to read and to memorize and to understand and all of that. Does long sitting hours affect children when it comes to their muscles and skeleton?
Absolutely. Children have a lot of energy, and so it's just sitting there waiting to be used. So having them sit for long hours at a time, it's not very healthy for them, and not only children, for everybody, for all of us. We talked about this a few times. So it's very important that they have breaks, even if it's a 5-minute water break or whatever it is. I remember that at least when I was in primary or JHS, there were times during the day that you could just go out, you know, play a little bit for a few minutes
break
and then
time.
come back. Break time. There was break time and then there was lunch time, you know. So I think those were put in place for that purpose because you don't want kids just sitting in class all day long. And then there was PE almost every few days, you know. But now, and then I mean, thanks to COVID, I know that a lot of the schools had to do away with too much contact. So sports and things like that we're taking out. But it's very, very, very important that the kids are active during the day and they are not just sitting for 2, 3, 4 hours at a time up until lunch break, and then after they sit again. It's good for their circulation. It's good even for their focus. When you change position, you change the part of your brain that you are activating, and all that is very important for development as well.
The way you said break time and lunch time, clearly you attended a Dadaba school. For those who attended the site, we have first break and second break. That's how we called it. So children should be active,
Yes.
both at home and also in school.
Yes.
They should be involved in some form of physical activity.
Yes.
And that's also very important. I think we've spoken about the issue of screen time in the past and what impact it has for us when it comes to what we call the text neck. How, for children specifically, how does this play out, and is there a way of fixing this even all the better?
In children, it's, I think, a bigger problem for children now when we look at screen time, because kids, once they come out age 1, age 2, they already know that this is a phone. They start using it, they start having screen time. And all the research is showing that this phone, laptop, tablet, even your TV, as you're watching, there's some radiation that is going through your eyes and into the brain. So when you start introducing your kids to too much of this screen time, it can affect the part of the brain, and it's specifically the part of the brain that is involved in thinking, in language, in executive decisions, is the part that is affected. So just last night I was doing some research, and the WHO has come out with some guidelines, to help parents and guardians as to how much time their kids should spend with these gadgets. Now, below the age of 2 years, they are recommending no screen time.
Hey,
Yes.
no,
Like no screen time.
below 2 years.
Below 2 years.
No,
I was shocked
But how
myself.
practicable is that? Because a lot of parents use TVs, tablets to keep their
engage
toddlers. Still.
Yes, absolutely. So this is what WHO is saying, not me.
That is dangerous to introduce your child below 2 years to
Below
screens.
2 years to screens. And then for the kids 3 to 12, so before they become teenagers, they are recommending not more than an hour.
Oh,
Yes.
WHO pa.
Not more than an hour. So I think that the moral of the story here is a lot of children are having way too much time behind these gadgets. So I think parents need to pay attention to it. You need to find a way to monitor it, come up with simple things. In my house, for instance, now they're on vacation, but during school, tablets only for weekends. So things like that. And when we talk about screen time, including TV, by the way, include not only the phone, including TV. So I think that generally we're taking things for granted, but the research is showing that our kids are having way too much time in front of the screen. So we need to find a way to monitor it. And with that comes how they even use it. When you and I were kids, we didn't have these phones.
No, we didn't have the mobile phones.
We didn't have it. It's when we got to maybe secondary school or university or whatever before we started using these phones.
Oh, you started using your phone in secondary school?
When I was in SS3.
I see. DB.
So, but now, by 2-3 years, my 7-year-old daughter knows how to use my phone more than I do. So you realize that by the time they are much older, the problems that people are getting when they were 50s and 60s, they will start developing those problems
much
sooner.
early on.
So it's very, very important that we as parents, as guardians, we monitor. And we're not saying all screen time is bad. Not at all. It's just the world we live in. But we need to make sure that the kids are using it properly. And apart from the health issues, we need to realize that kids need to engage.
There are social issues.
There are social issues. They need to play with their toys. They need to play with friends.
Exactly.
They need that physical, social life as opposed to being in a room stuck on the phone all day long.
And I mean, it goes without question that screen time affects the decision making, language abilities part, and thinking part of one's brain. Because, I mean, you do not engage with other people, so you don't build social skills, you don't build interactivity. And I think it's very important, because I was just looking at the stats. Between 3 and 12 years, you shouldn't do more than 1 hour a day. How long is a movie? A movie is about 2 hours. So I mean, what that means, a person shouldn't be watching them. But I mean, the substance of it is we should minimize and monitor the amount of time that is spent on screens. And this is very important. Are there any essential nutrients, for instance, that in the course of we exposing ourselves to nature, that's with the kinds of foods we eat, with the kinds of exposures we have, can be of great benefit to our kids and even adults in general, that would help with musculoskeletal issues?
So kids, especially as they're developing, you need to get out in the sun, for instance, so that you can get some vitamin D to help strengthen your bones and things like that. But here we are, if kids are not going out to play, they are always in the classroom, then they sit in the car, then they come home, and then they are doing their homework, and then it's every day. They don't get enough sun time. They are lacking these nutrients. So it's very, very important that outside activity, that physical activity for children, we are able to involve it or include it in their day-to-day activities
But
at
now,
school.
I think it's important to also clarify. And you know, a lot of people, you find them walking on the sun and be like, hey, paddy, who team 50 pound? I'm faka kakra. Oh, Charlie, me pep vitamin D. Is it every sun that provides the vitamin D, or there is a certain timing of the day that we benefit from vitamin D from the sun?
So the research is saying between 10 a.m. and 12, thereabout, is when your body absorbs the most vitamin D at that particular time. So that's what the research is
Which means
showing.
more often than not, after 12 p.m. is because you don't have money. That's why you are working. Okay. All right. That's very important, so that you don't just go and sit
Just
under
walk
the
all
sun,
day.
just burning yourself because of vitamin D. But how about foods
Yes.
that
So
will be useful for kids in that regard?
everything, again, in moderation. So your fruits, your vegetables, and a lot of children need a lot of motivation and pushing to eat fruits and vegetables. So parents need to find interesting ways to help their kids to incorporate a lot more of the greens into their diet. So if something is in season, you know, when mangoes are in season, make sure your kids are eating as much as possible. When it's pineapple, that way they have a good variety.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes they may not want to eat the mango by itself, but maybe they will take it in the form of a juice and things like that. So you definitely want to make sure that you find ways and means to incorporate fruits and vegetables, because it's very important. All the essential vitamins and nutrients and minerals that they need are in those foods. And then we still want to minimize all the sugar as much as possible, because sugar in itself is good, but too much of it can cause issues for children, not only for adults. So we still need to minimize the intake of sugar in kids as well.
Great. It's been great interacting. Before we leave, as we always do, our 3 to-dos or to-not-dos about this particular conversation. Children going back to school.
Okay, so the 3 things. Number 1, we want to look at the school bags. We talked about it. Make sure your child's bag is not too heavy, not more than 10%. We talked about the different things that the school bag should have. And then also we want to look at their posture, their inactivity. So this is something that we would have to engage our teachers and our school leaders, so that they will make sure the school culture includes frequent getting up, frequent movement in the classroom. and then sitting upright as much as possible, not sleeping, laying down and writing and doing all sorts of things. And then the other thing we talked about was the gadgets, the screen time. Okay, so I'm sure all of us are guilty of this. Like you mentioned, even a movie is at least 2 hours. So we want to monitor how much time the kids are spending. If you know your child is guilty of being on a tablet for 4 hours straight, you have to beg him or her to put it down to have lunch and things like that, then you know that eventually it's going to come back. And like I said, it can affect their brain activity. So these will be the 3 things. And also, I do need to add one thing. A lot of the times, parents would not be very quick to respond to children who have musculoskeletal issues. Your child is continuously complaining of back pain and say, oh, it's growing pains. Oh, it's nothing. Oh, it will stop. Who told you? You are just a little boy. How can you have back pain? We need to pay attention to these and have them checked, have their spines checked, so that if there's a problem, like I said earlier on, it's easier to fix it in children than in adults.
And I'm happy you use the expression growing pains, and a certain boss of mine likes using that expression very much. So when children start complaining of some of these issues, don't think they are growing pains. Attend to them, get the right support, and I'm sure you can get that kind of support from Nova Wellness Center, who are our proud sponsors for this particular segment of the Asaase Breakfast Show. It's been Health Post. Today we've been talking about back to school, the key lessons for our kids, and we've been honored once again, as usual, to have with us the CEO of Nova Wellness Center, Dr. Naa Asheley Ashietey, taking us through this. I hope you've learned something. You need to pass it on and make time, same time next week. It's exactly 8:30. We bring it to you here on the Asaase Breakfast Show.